Hello, hi everyone. Thank you for being a bit patient with us. Yeah, I just want to give a little bit more extra time for people to roll in. So if you're not familiar, we are Grid 110 and we are a nonprofit focused on supporting early stage entrepreneurs in Los Angeles. And we do this by running no cost, no equity accelerator programs and providing free resources to founders whenever we can, kind of like this event. So today we have Stephen with us. He is the co-founder and CEO of Workspace, which is a platform redefining how people discover and access flexible work environments. And he is also a Grid 110 alum, so it is extra special for us to have him here today with us. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us, and I will pass it over to you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here on this Good Friday, which is funny. We're gonna have a lot of fun today, hopefully. Yeah, so I'm super excited to be here. I think, thank you so much for having me and having me as up here as a presenter. I think that Grade 110 has been such a huge influence and even for how we even got to this point. And I go back to a lot of the things that I learned in the different cohorts on different elements on like how we could scale to grow. So everybody, just in this session, we're going to take some time. It's going to be very interactive. I hope that you all are, it's going to be different, I think, than the other sessions, just a bit. But I really feel like there's an opportunity for us to like really reconnect and share experiences and share community together and have an opportunity for us to, hopefully come out of this with some nuggets and some further information that should help all of us move forward in whatever challenges and everything that we have. So thank you so much for bearing with me. But a little bit more about Workspace. Intro was great. So you can think of us as a future work fully managed. We're really thinking about how do you like our real thesis is that we all have to interact with physical space in some environment or some space. Like you all are in a physical space in some environment. You whether if you're outside in your room in an office, and our goal is to really provide seamless access to those spaces while also helping you manage and book those spaces where our automated concierge handles the operations, community, and logistics, so that you can focus on your work and not the minutia of how to do your work. So before we get started, we're going to ground. So we're going to do a quick little meditation exercise. We're going to do 6 breaths deep in, and we're going to sigh together. But while you're breathing in deeply, you're going to hold it at the top and then let it go and just let it fall out your mouth and sigh. And what we're going to do, the reason I want you to envision your journey and envision the people and the spaces and the places that you've been to get you to this point at 12:09 on April 18th. So the importance of this is that we want to take an opportunity to really think, be gracious, and have gratitude for understanding that this moment will never happen again. Like the angle of your hair will never happen again. The way you're breathing will never happen again. So like really taking that in and really being excited about the fact that you get to share this moment with everybody. So let's take a deep breath in. All right, cool. So do y'all feel grounded a little bit better? Ice for the transition. Awesome. So when we think about spaces and places, and really like how workspace got to where we got here and where we want you all to take by is that our goal in life, which I have discovered through trials and tribulations and a lot of failure, that our goal in life is to get to this happy place up here, right? Can we all agree that our goal is to get to this happy place? Now, when we start to define the idea of happy place, we want to look at it from like who is in that happy place and where is that happy place. And when you can put those two together, essentially what you're scaling and growing to here is a happy place of your vision, right? Whether it's your vision for your life, vision for your company, and or your vision for those that are in and around you. So the goal is to get to that vision and how to actualize and realize that vision. So that's our first step. And before we go on, I don't know if you all have access to a pen and a paper, but also with this being super duper interactive, I would love if you all have the ability to draw or doodle or do something of that nature. It's going to come really, really in handy at the end of this. So doodle, draw. If I say anything great, that's awesome. If I say anything you do not agree with, that's you could cross it out, put that on the paper, and there's going to be something at the end of it that I think you all are going to really appreciate. So again, so you want to get here, so you want to get to your happy place. So for my experience, well, what I really struggle with, even when I built my first company back in 2014, it failed miserably. I launched it and it like died like a month later. And I realized through this journey of getting to where workspace is today, we were building something that was a solution. If it had a problem, we were going to solve that problem, but we didn't have this. We didn't have our happy place. We didn't have a vision for the organization, or we didn't have people that we wanted to work with, and we sure didn't have space, physical space or mental space in order to do the work that we were going to do. So it all came crashing down. And then the people that we did bring onto that journey, as we started to develop more and get a better sense of what the product was going to be and all of those things, we started to realize that those were on the journey. They weren't the right fit, and not the right fit because they weren't doing anything. They just weren't the right fit in the idea of this vision here. So really, when you think about that vision of that happy place, the types of folks that you want to put in that happy place together are, one, dream believers. So those people who absolutely unequivocally believe in your dream, and not just the dream of what you're building, but the future of the world that you want to create. So when you think about your business or who you are, there's a future world that you want to live in, that you want to exist in, that you want to create. And with that, that's what those dream believers are. Those are the people who are like, yeah, I could get that. I could, you know what, that world, I could do that. Right. And I think about some of the companies that I worked for, I had the fortunate ability to work, started my career at Apple, did some stuff at Tesla pre current situation, and then also did stuff at WeWork pre current situation. But in those moments, all three of those companies, what they allowed for each employee when I was there was we all fell in love with the idea of the world that they wanted to create through the product that they were selling. So, at the end of the day, we called Apple the fruit stand. They were only selling computers. But when you start to peel back, a lot of the opportunities that they told us is that what we're really trying to do is that, can we change people's lives through a device? When you get hired, to like, you know what, I can get along with that, right? Like that's not a you're not asking that much of me. You're just asking, are you open to changing someone's life through a physical device? Sure. Like it's a no-brainer, right? At Tesla was like, okay, now that we can change people's lives through a physical device, can we do it in a sustainable space, right? So like if we're gonna keep doing this thing with these devices, can we do it sustainably? And you have a moment where you have to sit and go, I mean, yeah, I guess, like, sure. Like those they're not hard ask. And then at WeWork was like, okay, we're doing it in a sustainable way. We're changing people's lives through devices, but what happens if you put the right people in the right space together? Like, can we 10x that? I guess. And then when I worked there, the ideas were all about the importance or the impact of those decisions in that vision. So number one, make sure your happy place has your dream believers. Number two, you have to make sure that your happy place and your vision is accompanied with key holders. So the difference between a dream believer is that they're with you no matter what, no matter how crazy the idea is, they like even if it doesn't make sense or is radical, they're with you. However, some dream believers may or may not have the key to unlock the next step, right? So you have a bunch of people who believe in you and they're cheering you on. Maybe your grandmother, is your dream believer, but does she have the ability to unlock that next step for you in your vision? So in your vision, in your happy place here, you want to have your dream believers and your I don't want to say gatekeepers because that's just a little negative, but your key holders, right? So those people who are able to go to the door, open the door, and that could be a mentor, it could be a former manager, it could be a current manager, it could be all the people who have the ability to open up that door for you. And it's not I don't know if I want to, 100% align it with the idea of like networking. It's more so that if you look at your landscape of human beings that you come in contact with, all of them have respective keys. It's more so like how do you identify those that can unlock your next step? And as you do that, my only ask, if you have people who are on your in your team that are key, that you can also then serve as a key holder for them as well. 'Cause I think that that back and forth and the types of conversations and the types of sparks that happen with that back and forth energy is just amazing. And then the third thing that you need to have in your vision, you have to have your dream believers, you have to have your key holders, and then I think you need to have your grounding, your people who kind of bring you back, right? Because as we all have been on this call, we have really great dreams, and we're like, let's go and change this world. We have the right people to open the doors, but you also need the person of realism, who's like, hey, this is great. However, this is like, how do you actually get there, right? But that's all fine and dandy, but we're here, right? We're all here. And where that exists is that as you can still see, it's still a happy place, but the happy place is a little bit different. And we start here. That here is accompanying to different elements, and that major element is why. When we think about it, the why is the most important thing. It's the starting ground, it's the foundation. And what the why is, you probably heard it from Simon Sinek, you probably heard it from some random TikTok feed, you probably heard it on LinkedIn. The why is so important. And I am a firm believer, especially if they're going through a couple of other subsequent programs, the why is like the most important thing. And frankly, for me with Workspace, we struggled with this. Like when I first started Workspace, it was just when I first started the idea of workspace, imagine sitting in a 60,000 square foot building by yourself, people banging on the door in the pandemic to open up, and they're giving you all the reasons why you should let them in and work. I'm at home, my wife and kids, or I don't have the internet, or I don't have this. And it's like, at that point, I was like, I mean, could we build something that connects folks with other areas and other buildings? But that wasn't like a really good why, it was a good idea. And then along this journey, the why has morphed, right? One why came up is that, I really believe in the power of space. Like, okay, that's cute. Um, Another why came up is that, you know, when I think about my career, I've always had friction. So it's like, am I unhireable? Am I not? Am I unemployable? So then that was a why. Well, let me go start something, right? But then when I got to really just sit down and over like the last couple of weeks, really honing in on the concept and the idea of why, um, it dawned on me that I had the blessing to be able to see the power of space up close, right? And my driving force for workspace and that why is that I just thought it was unfair that like I got to see the power of space. And what I mean by that, as a community manager at WeWork, we did a lot of stuff back then. I remember this one woman, forgot her name, which I do remember her, but don't remember her name. She was 2 hours late to her interview for this position. And she comes in, she's out of breath, she's sweaty, and I'm just like, oh, what do you want? She goes, I have an interview today. And I was like, oh yeah, it was 2 hours ago. And she's like, yeah. And I look down, and she has like a baby. And I was like, what is that? She's like, oh my. She said, I have this baby because it's my baby, and my sitter canceled, so I didn't know what to do. So then I just said I was gonna bring the baby to the interview. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, I don't even know he's upstairs. So, we go upstairs and I talk to him. I was like, hey, your interview's here. He's like, she's late. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, she's it. She's very late. And he goes, well, why are you here? I said, you want to still interview her? And he's like, no, she's late. I'm like, "Mm, she brought a baby. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, she brought a whole baby. Not a half baby, but a full baby. And he goes, well, would you still interview her? I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is your company. I just get paid marginal wages to sit at a front desk. So I go downstairs. He comes downstairs, and then I said, and she goes, is he gonna interview? I'm like, maybe. So he comes downstairs and she's like looking at us, and we're like, um, we give, and I'm like, when we're like, oh, we'll just take care of the baby, right? So we took care of the baby while she did the thing. I don't know if she got the job, but I do know that just to be able to have that space, like that physical space, took that weight off of her, right? In another situation, we had a guy who was trying to get investors. Not sure what his platform did. I don't think it really worked that well, but he was a dream. He believed in this, and he comes downstairs and he's like, "Hey, my potential investors don't know I work out of a WeWork." Like, all right. I said, well, okay. He goes, I told him that I had this whole office space. I'm like, well, you don't. And he goes, well, can you help? And I talked to our team. I was like, well, we could change out all the logos on all the screens to your logo. So as you walk to the conference room, they can think it's your building. And he said, well, what do I do with you all? And I was like, you want us to pretend to work for you? He's like, I mean, like if you could. And I'm like, sure. So investors come, he's like, oh, this is my staff. And I'm like, we're not your staff, but we're just gonna, this is 30 seconds. And they're like, oh my God, you have a whole staff. And the investors are kind of a little weird because there's people working in the common area. It's like, well, who are they? And it's like, bro, we can't explain that. Like, you just got to let that one live. So he goes in, he crushes it. He said it went really, really well. And again, the physical space, like we had the access and the ability to do that. So, but I thought so. I had the opportunity to sit with all of those different stories and the other whys, and figured out that like the power of space for our why and how we started while we're here is that we just believe that people should have great access to physical space. And if we're all antennas, picking up information as we walk through the earth and walk through the earth, we're picking up information, we're just interpreting it, and we're reflecting what we're interpreting. We need to be in spaces that allow for us to do that reflection better and great so that we can show up as our most authentic selves. So when we show up as our most authentic selves, actually, I hate that. Um, I don't like authentic, but that's a whole nother TED talk. As we show up as our most human self, right? Because I think authentic still has a level of performance. So when we show up as our most human self, the productivity, the success, the output is tremendously larger when you're in a space of non-performance and you don't realize that that physical space has such a huge role on it, and not just the space you're in, the space that surrounds it. Like, do you have access to green spaces? Do you have access to sunlight? All of those things play a huge role. So when I thought about it, it's like I want everyone to have the ability to experience that. And that's our why. So when you think about where you are in regards to people, places, and spaces, it's the why. So we're still here. So, but how do you do it? Right? That's the thing. I gave you the why, I gave you the vision, but how do you do it? Well, you need help. And you need those dream believers, and those dream believers are in your vision. But along the way, you probably have already seen the people who are your who's and who are your where's and where were your where's, right? And particularly for WeWork, I mean not WeWork, I don't work there anymore. Particularly for workspace, what happened is that I would say that I got this idea. I was sitting in a program. We were on the verge of getting booted out because our pitches just wasn't doing the thing. And I realized that I have pretty, mediocre social capital. So I was like, well, how do I scale this thing where I don't know that many people? And then I was like, well, what do I know? So I was doing this mental matrix, like, what do I know? Who do I know? What do I know very well? What do I kind of sort of know? What do I pretend to know on LinkedIn? And like I laid out that whole map and I started to understand that for me to get to this vision, it required partnerships. And what we found is that me working with different organizations, I have a really good, I didn't know this, I have a really good barometer on understanding, particularly government partnerships. Cause like for some strange reason, believe in public-private partnerships. I think that there's something there, the community benefits. So when I looked at workspace, it's like, how do we then take our idea and our thesis, apply it to underutilized physical spaces that can then lead to workforce development and economic impact to drive that? And that's where we sit. So when I think about the partners, so now I can lay out our map and I can see our ecosystem partners. we've driven so deep into this idea of partners that we no longer look at our competitors as competitors. We're looking at them as ecosystem partners. And the reason why we made that mental shift was primarily because I realized we're all trying to solve the same problem, right? So instead of me trying to take a portion of your market share, I'm going to then really figure out, like, how do I help accelerate, how can my product help accelerate your product? Because if my product is accelerating your product, my product is also accelerating. And this initial concept came from a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago with the folks. And it's like, when you think about it, the world is full of abundance, right? The world is 360 degrees. We could go in any direction we want to go to. We have immense potential. The world is infinite. However, there's this paradigm shift that we play with when it comes to the idea of infinite. So we have infinite around us, and we have finite. When you think about this idea of space and place, um, we think about that in the finite spot, right? So space and place is finite. You can only do so much within the physical space, right? And then the infinite things, if we feel like we have infinite time, we could do whatever we want. When workspace kind of flipped that around and we found out that we have infinite space in place, but we have a finite time to do it, that's when our partnerships really started to like develop and blossom. Cause like, hey, I love this, but like you can't take 30 days to think about if we're a good fit. It's like we don't have time for that. We have infinite space in place. We just don't have time. So the our how is that, how do we get these partners onto our side, being dream believers, being key holders, and helping scale this idea while now converting the idea of competitors into ecosystem partners, because we're all solving the same problem, because our one of our foundational principles is that this world is full of abundance and multiple people in the same space can exist to do great things, because if I'm winning, if I'm eating good, you're eating good, because that's just how the world works. So that's how you do it. Is that you build out, you look at your matrix of people and you're like, okay, where do they fit? And like on what part of the journey do they fit on? What kind of attributes do they have? The who, the where. And I think that sometimes in the startup space is that you think about the person who may have the biggest check, right? Or the biggest network. And chances are, for us, our biggest advice has come from people who do not have the biggest check or the biggest network. I would say the three key partners that we've worked with have been our advisors of how we got here. One was thank you, Grade 110, for our mentor and entrepreneur in residence. Because I remember it was a Tuesday, and he goes, "Wait," he said, "Why don't you just go in the back alley, open your coat, and see who will buy it?" That was a Tuesday. We got our first customer on a Thursday. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, then let's keep copying and pasting that." And then he was like, "Yeah," he said, "as you keep scaling, just see what people will pay for, who will actually cut you a check, and you sell that." So that's how workspace has expanded. The other thing is that had another person tell me, he said, I see you struggling in spaces and places where you have to put in a lot of effort to be in that space, in that place. And I'm like, well, yeah, because this is where, and he goes, no, man. He said, you have to go where they'll butter your biscuits. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. And he goes, think about it. You have biscuits. You go to one place and they look at your biscuits and they're like, I would butter those. I would put my butter on those biscuits, but it's just not a good, you have to do these series of steps and then come back to me. And then you do it and you come back and, oh, we got to do these series of steps. He said, but there's another person across the street who's like waving you down. And they're like, hey, I'll put it. Like, yeah, sure, why not? And he said, those are the places and those are the spaces that you need to be in. And those are your partners. And those are the people who can unlock the doors. And those two things really resonated and got workspace to where they are, is that we are really being hyper strategic on who can butter our biscuits and then who is willing to buy from us as we open our code. Because I think like that's what we found, that that's the quickest, fastest way to scale on where we are. So you do it by, again, you needing people and places. And you need the people, obviously, you need the spaces. And when we like want to distill down the concept of space and place, the place can be a phone call, the space can be a Zoom. It could be a walk with your neighbor or your partner. Like all of these different micro conversations and interactions really tend to help drive you to that vision, right? And while you're doing that, you have to be committed to the fact that everything that you do is a step towards progress to that vision. Now, you're going to have a lot of folks tell you that, oh, what does that have to do with insert X about your business? And it's, and I have been able to resolve and settle myself in like it does. It has everything to do with it. You may not think so. For example, we've taken on some projects that are completely on the surface outside of scope. However, I'm so glad that we took on those projects because now I'm able to see really where workspace fits and like what problems are we solving. So much so that I did a demo with a potential partner. And the woman said, "You've solved every problem that I have in this platform." And I was like, she said, "How?" And I said, "Well, this feature came from this conversation. This feature came from me trying to figure out this thing." And she goes, "But none of those like are like aligned in our particular industry." And I was like, "No, but the process to do that is the reason how this feature came about." Like, yeah, it doesn't look like it on the surface, but if you really like, pull the weeds back and really dive in, you're like, oh, this has everything to do with it. And having that process and doing that has just really been super impactful for us. And I hope, it'd be super impactful for you. So we're gonna do an activity. All right. So you can have your camera on, you can take your camera off. We'll probably do like a cool little 5-minute activity. And that activity is very, very simple. When you think about your space, you have your vision over here, you have your why. What I want you to do is start to map out different tick points on that path of your who and your where, right? So it will not look like this. This is just because this is the limitations of Canva, but it doesn't have to be on a straight line. It can go in any direction. But what I want you to do is really map out on the same sheet of paper that you have of your doodles and your notes. Map out anywhere on the paper. You can connect it. You can do whatever you want, and different tick marks on where you are of who and your where. Who is in that space and where it is, and then along that line, also fill in different elements of who and where to get you to the next tick mark. And we're gonna have it's 12:34. So Estelle, is it too late to bring everyone onto an individual breakout room by chance? No, maybe so. Can we do that? Maybe if not, we can all just stare at each other.
No, we can, like, each person gets their own room?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I can set that up really quickly.
different. I'm telling you.
Stephen, as Estelle is setting that up, how much time do you want
Oh,
people?
we only need 5 minutes. I just want people to
Okay,
like jot down and doodle.
okay,
We're gonna
perfect.
have something special at the end. I have a good.
Perfect. All the rooms should be open.
Okay, so if you're wondering what I'm looking at on the side, so like my window is like the street, and there's a lot of like things happening.
Yeah. The funniest squirrels collecting nuts in front of me. So,
Yeah, I see like all sorts of cars. So like I live in the same neighborhood as my family, so I occasionally see them going back and forth to the grocery store. So like that's what's all right here.
nice.
Like for instance, my neighbor got a new car and they're driving it down the street. Like that's
Nice.
well, let's see. Does it seem like we have everybody back? It looks like we have everyone back except for cool, awesome, perfect. So before we get to the final thing, does anyone want to share their experience that they had for the 5 minutes on drafting out their who, where, like, are there any like highlights, anything that came to mind that you want to share to the group? And just, if you want to provide additional context as to like why this is like important, or why they made your who and your where from your one happy place to the next. Please feel free to share with the group. Okay. All right. You know what? We're just gonna act like, silence is gonna be the way we go here today, which is fine. Cool. Well, for me, just as an example, when I think about, our why and then the vision that we have, the first take on for like my who, where, I would say, is sitting at LACI in an empty building in 2020 during a global pandemic. And those 15 or so folks that, we kind of built this really awkward community during the pandemic, and just really seeing like what we call the future of work up close, what we call the future work then, what we call the now of work now. So seeing that genesis of that was super impactful to where we got. I think the next tick on the who and the where would be what did I do after that? The next I think was just talking to customers. At the time I didn't know would be customers. We're just talking to people, understanding like how they worked, where they worked. I would say that the third one is the serendipitous place and space of how I found and met my co-founder. A lot of folks don't know this, but it was at a basketball game, and pickup rec league basketball game. And as everyone does, I was complaining about my job. He was also complaining about his job. And then I stopped and said, I have this idea. And he goes, cool. I said, but I can't make it because I'm not technical. He's like, oh, that's great. I can make anything. My ideas are, different. And I'm like, oh, well, like, let's do this. So a 2 hour long walk from the gym to our car turned into us being co-founders. And come to find out, we're born in like the same week. We both have two kids and about the same ages. So it's a lot of similarities that we have. And this has been a great ride. So like that who is my co-founder, and the where is a random basketball gymnasium in Mid City. Um, and I would say the last who, where, we're still figuring it out, right? Like I think that exists with the folks on this call. It exists with Grid 110. It exists with potential investors, all of our customers. We're still defining, and then the where is where we build and exchange energy and community. So that one's still a big giant question mark. Because I know that we're not to our vision, and I don't think that we'll ever, I guess I should put an asterisk there. Will you ever get to your vision? I hope so. But do I think workspace will ever get to their vision? Maybe. I think that what's the real important of this is falling in love with that process from your why to your vision and going back and forth. So if this was lined out in a traditional Simon Sinek way, we have our who, we have our why, we have our how, and then obviously we end with our what. So yeah, so for us, it's really just we've at workspace, and just in my general physical philosophy, we fell in love with this part, this process part of going up and down, back and forth, up, because there's opportunities where I've connected with people who are at this who, where, right? And they've helped us push a little bit further to this ideal vision. Do I want to see the world the way I envision it? 1000%. Will we get there? I hope so. And I think that with everyone on this call and the help of all the different partners and all the different spaces and places that we've been in, and even this moment that we were able to share together, I think that we'll get to a part of it. And I think as long as we stay focused in maintaining the process and loving the process and really being infatuated with doing it over and over and over again, I feel like someday we'll wake up and see that. And you're probably wondering, what was that exercise for? So if you look down at your piece of paper with your doodles and your notes, um, as you look down and you get to experience it and you get to touch it, that is your map. That is your map from your why to your vision and the process in between. all of the pitfalls, all of the turns, all of the left-hand turns, all of the rights, all of the going straights. That's your map. So what I want you to do is take that map, and whenever you feel like you get lost, just look down. You'll always be able to find you are here. So that piece of paper is the way that you can always refer back. So if you ever feel like you're lost and you're not on the right path, you're not working with the right partners, and you're not in the right space, that map will be your guiding force to ensure that you get back on track. Or if you don't get back on track, just know that that's just a part of the journey. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. If you have any questions, and I probably will have half an answer.
I got a question, Stephen.
Yes.
How do you pick yourself up after all the failures, all the shortfalls, all the times you were disappointed and didn't get the result you're looking for, man? What keeps you going? Because
As a person who's been fired in my life so many times that I don't want to put my hands up. Uh, I would say that the one thing that I found myself consistently doing is like I just like when I was talking to my friend about this, I was like, I used to wear like a scarlet letter, and like I didn't enjoy these moments of peace. And then one day I had a really serious talk with myself after the most recent, and I think that if you could change the way you think about it, so normally in life you only get like 2 or 3 moments in your life to start over, right? Like after high school, you could start over, become a new person. In college, you graduate college or whatever happens at that point, you start over again, right? But when you fail, it's not that you fail, you've learned it's an opportunity for you to learn, and you get the unique opportunity amongst other people to start over. Like we don't get that opportunity to start over. And with through failure, through falling on your face, you get to start over. And I think like that's the one thing that like I've been able to like, even though it's hard and I've had moments of frustration, tears, and was like, why is this happening to me? It's like more so like leaning in with curiosity of like understanding like not why is this happening to me, or like what can I take from this to like go to the next step? And what are some like physical things that I could do every day to like at least start to get some traction somewhere, right? So you can feel good. Um, that's one thing. And I think like I don't want to give a philosophical blah blah blah, but more so like what I do is that I'll just start sending emails and like LinkedIn requests. And like if I fall or fail, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna send an email to this random human being that I haven't talked to in a long time and see if they respond. Cause like for me, it's like, oh, you responded. Okay, that's a step. Like, all right, cool, bet you responded. All right, so now I was like, well, let me text message the other person. Okay. So then I get like super active in like random things. Estelle knows this. I got super active in making sweatshirts, and I'm used to make t-shirts. So like I'll just do stuff so I can see something happening. Cause in my mind, I'm like, something's gotta break through. So like that's like my actionable thing. So like if there's something that you're just like you have a curiosity about, just reach out to them and just see. I like workspace was kind of stuck a bit, and I reached out to a person, that was significantly more money than I do, and like they responded. They were like, "Oh yeah, I'll talk to you," and I was like, "What, me? Why would you talk to me?" And I'm like, I mean, I have the availability on Friday if you're available. So like those little things. And I think that like that's one thing. And I think also just being enamored of the beauty of the silence and of the mundane and the boring. Like you don't realize, some guy told me this, you don't realize how many things have to go right for you to leave your house and come back in one piece. And like just appreciating that, right? And like and it's not failure, it's really just learning. You're gonna keep learning, and yeah, send that email, send that text message. And if yeah, that's my guy Carlo. So yeah, any other questions?
that was beautiful, man. I love that.
Thank you. Oh, other questions? I can make up things. Oh, Leah, you have a question?
I was going to say, Stephen, if no one else has a question, I have one.
Okay.
So, I know we've talked about this in program, like how many times a founder has to pivot when they're growing. So I'm curious kind of how you stay committed to that, ending happy place, that long-term vision, while also being flexible on how you get there.
I think that you have to be honest with yourself that it didn't work. Like you can't lead with ego. You have to be okay that you don't know it and it's not working. And like you have to really tap into feeling. Like I think that we in this world we get so inundated with data and the process, even our all of our pitch decks sound the same, all of our pitches sound the same. But like when you're up there, you know that this ain't working for you. Like like so being giving yourself that space and that grace to go like this isn't working. And like being so humble with self that you're okay with it not working. Like because it doesn't work for you. So I think like when you talk about the pivot, it's that you can't get so in love with the solution that you forget that the problem you're solving and but it's not an indictment on your ability to do the thing. It just doesn't work. But but if you look back, like what did you learn from it? What did you build from it? Who did you meet? What places did you have? Like, but just don't be so hyper focused on that this is gonna be the thing that solves world hunger. It's not, trust me. And and I know your goal might be to be on the cover of Forbes, but they don't have a good track record. So it's the fact that like be so humble in yourself that like you don't lead with ego, you lead with curiosity so that you can honestly admit to yourself that this isn't working. I think because what we started workspace the idea in 2021. I went immediately out to fundraise. I got nothing back. And I had to admit to myself, this may not work. And it didn't. And then I re-up in 2023, went back out, tried to get funding, still didn't work. And frankly, right now it's kind of working. It's is it are we the Fortune 500 company that I aspire us to be? No. Are we on our way there? Maybe. But I do know that we have solved problems for people, and I think that we could create super impact. So yeah, I feel like you just have to be overly humble and like knowing that it might not work and it's okay. No one's gonna there's no boogeyman that's gonna come out and get you and say like, hey, that didn't work. It's like, yeah, you're right.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
What's up?
Yeah, so I know what are these challenges that you may have faced starting workspace. How do you, I guess, keep your team engaged with all these challenges that you've been facing and everything? How did you what steps or what do you do to keep them empowered and keep them coming back
Oh, yeah.
with a mission?
That's a great question because I would say 2 months ago I'm really bad at that. Like I'm very bad at like not communicating out. And I had one of my teammates say like, "Hey man, like I got you." And when he said that, it was such a relief, right? So now I just tell them everything. Like, like, yeah, I pitched today. They said no. Or I pitched today. We're going to the investment committee. Oh, I applied for that. That didn't work. And like, I'm learning that like the more and more I just tell them everything that's happening, the more and more they're bought in, right? Like, I need to do a better job of having a better cadence of telling them everything because I tell them everything in like these like spots of like, oh, I'm talking to you right now, so I'm gonna just lay out the last 6 months. Um, but yeah, I think like that's what I've noticed of why they keep coming back is like, so you have the ability to know where you fit. Is this still for you? Like, I don't want to ever take your choice away by promising this like fairy tale dream world. Like the vision, like, are we close? Yes. But are we there now? No. Do I want you on the team? Yes. Do I care about your existence? Yes. And in the meantime, how can I still serve as a resource while we're building this? Like, like, yeah, I want you on the team. But if you're a UX UI designer, I hear about something super dope and they're making, 130, 140, and I got a direct plug. I'm gonna plug you in. Like, because you still gotta feed your family. So like, why am I gonna hold you hostage over here when we're still trying to figure this out, but you still gotta feed your family? Like, oh yeah, bet. Like, let me slide you over to that 140. And if I can make that intro and hype you up and know that I could put you in a better place. And like I think establishing that trust level with the team, like they know that like I got them 100%. It's that I think that's why they keep showing up. Cause like I'll even some of our software engineers are like, hey, like so fundraising. I know you got equity, the paycheck is a little light. There's this other opportunity with my guy. Like, want to take on that contract real quick while we're still ramping up. Like, yeah, like you want to come back to that resource because if you know that, I got you. I think we have time for one more question, maybe? Okay, one more question. Okay, we're not. That's cool.
Yeah, well, if there's no other questions or say you have one in a few hours or over the weekend, Stephen, I'll put your LinkedIn information in the follow-up blast, so
Yeah.
you can always reach out to Stephen afterwards.
Oh yeah, I had this here too. Look at that.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
Which will
Oh,
also be included in the follow-up email with, the recording and any resources shared. But yeah, Stephen, thank you so much for such an amazing session. We really appreciate it. And then, yeah, we would love to see you next week. We're hosting another On the Grid session. It's called Your Product-Led Growth Roadmap. So I will drop that link in the chat. Otherwise, have a good Friday.